Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Jamel Hartman here. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical Oils, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Please do not forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us, grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Good things no one's in studio with me, but others got me coughing. I didn't get any sleep. All right. Folks, we've got to bring our guests in today. Without further ado, let's bring in our special guest for the day. We've got Colonel Duncan Simons from the Bermuda Regiment. We're talking about Remembrance Day and the state of the regiment as they look to grow numbers to make sure we have enough people for the needs of our local military. Bring in Royal Bermuda Regiment. My apologies. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to Colonel. Greetings, sir. How are you?
Yes, good morning, Jamel. Good morning to your listeners. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
First off, let me apologize for Teo. I mean, my goodness, that brother could talk right now.
Knowing Teo, I knew that was going to happen. So.
I'm joking. First off, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience and trust in our platform to have these most important conversations with us. This is your second time on, and actually, when you were last on, Colonel, I think a couple days later, you were named the Colonel, Commanding Officer of the Bermuda Regiment. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
But secondly, just explain to the audience what the role of the Commanding Officer is actually responsible for.
So, it's pretty much in the name. I'm basically the person with the privilege of commanding the regiment, with sort of delivering on our missions and roles. And, also as a government department, department head, sort of making sure that we are compliant and being run well.
Okay. And so you're like the CEO of the organization.
Exactly.
Okay. And we spoke about this last time you were on. The numbers over the years, we've seen them dwindle. Budgets have been cut and the like. It's noticeable with the band. Like when I watched the parade and saw the regiment band, it was so, I used to go to Beta Retreat, and the Peppercorn when I was young. My Nana loved it. And it was just so many people. I don't know if that's due to not having conscription, lack of funding, or maybe just not a lot of Bermudians because we've had so many people moving away. But what is the regiment doing in current day to attract more people into its ranks?
Yeah, so we are doing what we've been doing for the past few years, sort of engaging with the community, advertising, telling our story. But the solution long-term is engagement with young people. And you raised the band. Band's a great example where this summer, as well as last summer, we had a youth band camp over the summer. So we had 22 musicians in the summer, and we're growing the ranks of our junior band. COVID hasn't helped. We had, music programs over the past few years have really suffered because of that. But we're sort of rebounding and putting energy and efforts into youth engagement. So the youth junior band is one component, junior leaders is another. We're seeking to expand that over the next year into the schools. And certainly this week in the Remembrance period, we have been visiting primary schools across the island. And by Friday, we will probably have visited or presented to 1,500 school children. And that's just to raise awareness about Remembrance and Bermuda's military history. We have a rich military history as an institution. The regiment, the military, has really been sort of part of core to the Bermudian identity. So, connecting with the next generation, I think, is the solution long term, and that's not necessarily going to bear fruit next year or 2 years from now. Certainly 5 years from now, we will be in a stronger place.
I love that, going into the schools. That's awesome. Shifting gears to, you mentioned Remembrance Day. How does the Bermuda Regiment go about preparing for it? I know ceremonial is one of the purposes of the organization. What all goes into preparing for Remembrance Day?
Yeah, so the main effort is really the parade we provide. One of our missions and roles or tasks is to support the ceremonial functions of the island, which is why we have a band, why we march on parade. So ensuring that sort of our part of that ceremony is stitched up. We'll have a couple guards on parade. There will also be the war veterans, of course, members of the Royal Bermuda Regiment Association. So if you're a former soldier, you have the opportunity to march on parade through them. And just ensuring that the ceremony is appropriate and carries sufficient
Mhm.
the written, and it goes well. So, so that's one aspect. We also provide support to the Bermuda Legion. So telling the story about Remembrance, which is why we've been in the schools for the past couple of weeks, helping with their poppy appeal. So their poppy appeal is tomorrow, Thursday, as well as Saturday. So if you see anyone on the street selling poppies, please contribute, because those funds support former soldiers, be it veterans of wars or former Bermuda Regiment or Royal Bermuda Regiment soldiers who are in need. So the Legion is there, and we support them as well.
Audience, if you have any questions or comments, please send them through. I will get to them, so just hold tight. You mentioned war soldiers and previous Bermuda Regiment, Royal Bermuda Regiment soldiers. Why is it so important to, I guess, celebrate and honor them during the Remembrance Day? And I know my grandfathers both were veterans, and we're getting to a point where life's doing the cycle's happening. They're dying off. How is the regiment going about keeping their memories alive and keeping their legacies involved in the festivities for Remembrance Day?
Yeah, I think what distinguishes the military and other services, particularly, but the military from other jobs, is that at some point we could be called to put our life on the line and take a risk that may lead to death, and that's just the reality. Not so much here, but when you think about the militaries around the world, that is the ultimate sacrifice, right? So it's important that we recognize that and carry that torch and make sure that people are aware. In terms of protecting that legacy, from my standpoint, it's really supporting as best we can the efforts of the Bermuda Legion, engaging with education around military history, which we're doing with schools, and that's really, I think, what we can do. There are several services over this weekend. Remembrance Day on Mondays is the main event, but of course on the Sunday there are a series of church services around the island, be it St. James in Somerset, St. Peter's in St. George's, a few others. There's the BMA Memorial service, Town Square Sunday morning. So we do our best to support those. Jarvis Bay as well at All Boys Point with the Sea Cadets. So we make the rounds. We provide as much support as we can to these events to keep them front and center. And it's really, I think, in terms of preserving that legacy, it's all about education, engaging with young people, so that they are aware of our history. Because in the social media age, everything's present here now. Everything's through your phone, and the ability to slow down, step back, and reflect is something that we're working to encourage.
Indeed. We have a question from Michael Daniels. He said, would you support a suggestion that the increased number of lifeguards that Bermuda needs could come out of the regiment? Interesting.
Yeah, we're undergoing a review of our missions and roles at the moment, and we have a few areas where we focus on. We have the new thing, of course, is Coast Guard Maritime Search and Rescue. That's a very resource intensive, demanding role. Not a whole lot of people dedicated to it, but it is there. Then it's sort of force protection, so traditional military roles when you think of rifles, riots, and that sort of thing. We maintain that capability. Then there's the HADR, humanitarian aid disaster relief. It's a post-hurricane approach to delivering a service. And then ceremonial, so we just talked about Remembrance Day. Assistance to the Bermuda community, that's sort of youth engagement, really. And then assistance to the international community. So we, from time to time, go overseas and provide assistance. And with all these roles, I think we have to remember that we are an organization of 300 people at the moment, 40 of whom are full-time staff. And we have to be selective about sort of what we can do and what we can't do, and just be not promise anything we can't deliver, but maintain this broad set of tasks, or capability across these broad set of tasks, without compromising anyone in a big way. So when you think about lifeguards at the beaches, sure, we could potentially help out, but at the expense of something else.
Right.
Most people are part-time. If it's full-time staff, then is that what they signed up to do? So it's not a hard no, but certainly the conversation has to be had. And perhaps there's an opportunity for other departments are more work around recruiting for the lifeguards and getting people in. Certainly in the days of conscription, you could have had access to more numbers or had national service,
Right.
and so perhaps you do a year of lifeguarding as your national service. That type of thing could be a solution, but again, that's outside of my wheelhouse.
I think that I'm encouraged that it's something that can be considered, but again, I think numbers wise, you just said, like, where are you going to take from, so
what are you giving up? That's always the question. And the paymaster, quartermaster, whenever I want to say, look, I want to do this or that. So
yeah,
it's really an accounting exercise, time, people's time and money,
right.
and how do we allocate our resources?
Yeah, thank you for that, sir. Charles H. Jeffs II, he's asking, when sharing the history of Bermuda's military, do you share all the history of the Bermuda militia infantry?
Of course. So we have a history page on our website, rbr.bm, bermudaregiment.bm, that outlines sort of a snapshot of our history. There's certainly, during the talks with the schools, we do hit on the points, but again, the audience are essentially, in this instance, primary school students. But obviously that's part of Bermuda's history, and we're going to tell the full story. It's not just the Bermuda Regiment 1965 onwards. It's really,
right.
We have this 400-year tradition of militias, and then up to 1895 when when the local units were formally stood up, plus the British garrisons that were here over the years, and then the Royal Bermuda Regiment in 1965, Royal Bermuda Regiment in 2005 onwards. So yeah, it's a pretty long story, and we benefit from having this richness of history. When we look to ourselves at the South and the other overseas territory regiments, two of whom have just stood up, Cayman and Turks and Caicos Islands, they're really trying to instill that culture, and because they don't have that history and culture, it's harder to start up the unit. A military unit takes many years to stand up. To get to a major or warrant officer, you need a dozen years of experience. You can't just hire off the street to fill these roles.
Indeed. Mark Arthur C. Phillips asking, are there any war veterans from World War I and World War II that are still alive?
There are no World War I veterans still alive. World War II veterans, I think, very few and far between. I don't know. Cal Everson of the Bermuda Legion could tell you, but there are other veterans from more recent wars, the Korean War, Vietnam War, obviously through the U.S., who are obviously alive. And we're transitioning away from just recognizing World War I, World War II to the whole picture. People who served in the Bermuda Regiment and other wars are considered in that cohort. Essentially, if we've served a day in any military, you're considered a veteran.
Okay. Colonel, can you just remind people when the parade takes place, where they can watch and what time?
Yeah, so basically it's the 11th day of the 11th month during the 11th hour. So the last post will be played at 11 a.m. Monday morning. The parade will commence at about 10:30. The ceremony happens at the Cenotaph Cabinet grounds on Front Street. So if you show up at 10:30 Monday morning, you will be able to capture the whole parade. And it's a really beautiful service. There's wreath laying, there's a massed band. So the Royal Bermuda Regiment band, supplemented by the Salvation Army band, Somerset Brigade band, and the Island Pipe band, all come together and perform jointly.
All right. And for those who don't know what the last post is one of the most beautiful things played at both of my grandfather's funerals. I absolutely love it. My cousins, since my grandfather passed, my mother's mother, since he passed, I know we had my one of my cousins walk in the parade. Is that something that comes under you, the Royal Bermuda Regiment, where you allow people to do that?
Yeah, it's difficult because we provide the platform, and I think if you have someone, a relative who was a veteran, you can certainly march in the parade to recognize them. We may wear medals on the left, but if you're wearing someone else's medals, you'd wear them on the right. Some people carry a picture and recognize the service of their loved ones that way. And then if you served in the Bermuda Regiment, as it was, you can certainly march with the Royal Bermuda Regiment Association. They will be there if you show up for 10 o'clock on Monday morning.
Even if you only done 6 months and then never went.
Yeah, you could show up as well. So they just wear gray pants, a blue blazer, and a tie, regiment tie.
See, I think the audience
they can partake in the ceremony.
They'll say, you fought to end conscription, and I'll say, I didn't fight to end the Bermuda Regiment. But no, I thank you for this conversation. It's always helpful, and I think the thing that I appreciate most when someone from the Bermuda Regiment or the Bermuda Police comes on is really getting an understanding of what people actually do in the organization, what the capabilities are. I don't think even today a lot of people have an understanding of what your responsibilities are. I think the Coast Guard was added within the last 10 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2020.
Right. So you've definitely added responsibilities, but while adding those responsibilities, the numbers have dwindled. I would love to see the Bermudians who may be struggling, right? And when I say struggling, I mean, look, things have gone up. If they would look at part-time opportunities in the Bermuda Regiment, that could be beneficial for the organization, themselves, and their community. So I'm hopeful that we can play a part in helping drive numbers up for the benefit of Bermuda and Bermudians. Please keep in touch with us. Is there anything you want to say to the people of Bermuda before you head out?
Look, I have to plug service of the regiment, and for me, when I was part-time, it was really a fantastic second job. We have our next intake in February. You can sign up now on our website, rbr.bm/bermudaregiment.bm/join. Fill out the form there. We'll have you in. We have an open day next week Saturday. So if you want to come to work camp, we'll show you around, show you some of the units that are training, take you up to the Coast Guard. It's an opportunity for a soft touch. So it's no commitment. Just show up, check us out. We're looking to have a recruit camp in February. We didn't have one this summer. We had one in February of this year, but it is an opportunity to basically give 30 days of service over a year on a part-time basis. That's the starting point. That includes a 2-week camp and a series of weekends and drill nights across the year. We typically travel overseas for our courses and annual camps. Next year, we're going to Jamaica. We also have the Junior Non-Commissioned Officers Cadre going to North Carolina, and then we do courses all over the place as well. So it is a fantastic platform for personal development. You were talking earlier about engaging with people outside of your circle, with young people. This is a fantastic place to do that. Not in the same way that it happened during conscription, but in order to the regiment provides an opportunity to step into an organization where there is mentoring, professional development, challenge, travel, all these aspects that you just don't get in a normal day, 9-to-5 job. So if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to serve, if you're a former soldier, you can come back. If you are an expat or a spouse of an expat, and as long as you're legally resident on Bermuda, you can come join. So there are, the door is open, the opportunity is there, and I encourage anyone to check us out. Certainly next week, Saturday, check us out at rbr.bm and start the process of learning more. There's no commitment until you actually sign up. So we're here.
Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Simons, Royal Bermuda Regiment, thank you so much for the conversation. Appreciate it. And if you need us anytime before February to help ramp those numbers, please reach out. We'll be happy to have another conversation and get it going. But otherwise, have a wonderful day, sir.
You too. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Folks, if you appreciate that conversation with Colonel Duncan Simons, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. We're going to take our final break. And when we come back, I've got a question for you. Someone's going to be eligible for this week's prize. All right, stick with us.